Of all the places on Earth you could pick for a meeting about the fate of the human race, you picked a house in Iceland?
Perfect for security.
Good to see you, Mr. President. You're early. Always looking for the advantage.
I never imagined I'd see the controls for 70,000 nuclear weapons in the same room.
Here we are, the two of us, deciding whether there will be peace or war in the world.
We have tens of thousands of nuclear warheads all pointed at each other.
Why don't we just get rid of all of them? Every single nuclear weapon on Earth gone.
Now look at the new historical drama, The Brink of War. The film's based on the true story of the 1986 Reykjavik summit, where President Ronald Reagan and Russia's Mikhail Gorbachev met to discuss reducing their nation's nuclear capabilities amid the threat of global annihilation during the Cold War. And with us now, Golden Globe nominated and Emmy Award-winning actor Jeff Daniels. He portrays President Ronald Reagan in the film. Jeff, great to have you back. First of all, I'm thrilled that you've selected this slice of history. It's something that a lot of Americans may not be as aware of today as maybe we were 40 years ago, but it was a real turning point in history, a real turning point that led to the end of the Cold War. Tell us about why you did the movie and what we should expect from it.
It was an incredibly important time in American history. I was less aware of it than most, certainly you, Joe. It was a very dangerous time. There were 70,000 nuclear warheads between the U.S. and Russia pointed at each other with no shield, no Star Wars, no picking them off out of the sky. And, you know, they went to Reagan and Reagan said, what happens if they launch an attack on 6 U.S. cities? And they said, sir, you have minutes to launch your own attack, mutually assured destruction. And so Reagan and Gorbachev, who were as divided and bitter as we are today regarding rivals, and decided to get together and do something for the whole world. And that was to try to lower nuclear weapons. And the courage it took for two rivals like that to get in a house in Reykjavik, Iceland, and try to work it out behind closed doors, just the two of them, was it took a lot of guts. It took a lot of guts, and it was fascinating to get in that room. We shot in the same house, same room, same house, same chairs.
That's incredible.
It was like going into a church. That you could feel the presence of what happened in that room.
You know, it's interesting. Reagan refused to back down on SDI, and many people said that ultimately led to Gorbachev realizing they needed to back down. But it also led, though, as you've said, to future talks in '87 because they built a relationship. Let me ask you about Reagan as a character. You know, there's something, and I'm not comparing, there are no historical parallels regarding greatness, but he's a lot like George Washington in that it's this public figure, and everybody knows the public Reagan. But privately, he was hard to penetrate. Even his own children at times were like not sure who Reagan the person was. And poor Edmund Morris, who was his official biographer, finally gave up and started making up stories and said, I'm just making up stories because I can't penetrate this guy. How did you address that? How did you address Reagan, the person who seemed impenetrable on so many fronts, unless you were Nancy?
She could penetrate it. He was devoted to her, and we have moments in the film where he's on the phone to her. He's alone in the room in Reykjavik and talking to her, and that's a different Reagan. It's a private Reagan. As an actor, you know when you're on. You walk on a stage, you walk in front of a camera, you know when you're on. And Reagan had a sixth sense about when to be that. And maybe it was always there. And whenever he was meeting someone, some person visiting the White House or some leader, he could turn that on. And he used that ability. He used his sense of humor, which allowed people to kind of get, he'd pull him in, whether he was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner telling chicken jokes and farmer jokes and all of that, or whether he used it to kind of get Gorbachev to relax, and maybe then they could get to what they wanted to talk about. He was an actor. He was smarter than people might think. You know, I mean, they do all those impressions of him, whether it's SNL or Rich Little did a lot of them, and they spin him up. And what I tried to do was suggest him. I tried to get enough of the voice, the hair, some of the mannerisms. Well, you know, you get right in there like that. Now I get to pull you in, which is what film acting is, to what he's thinking and feeling so that you can think it and feel it as well. Now you're in the room with us, which is the story of that weekend is the story that the film tells. It's fascinating to me.
And watching the movie, Jeff, it's clear you're not doing the Rich Little, the SNL. No. It's not the cartoon version of Ronald Reagan. It's still your voice. There's a little whale, but it's not that big cartoon version. So how do you get at a man that so many people know so well already and so many people have so many assumptions about? What was your approach, not just that technical acting piece of it, but just to kind of be him? What was the approach?
The approach is like any character. It doesn't matter. What's the character want? What's he trying to achieve right now in this next page of the scene? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, that's how. Now you funnel it through, in this case, Reagan, and you try to get that. And the writer, Michael Gunn, like any writer, puts obstacles in front of you. And this one is a big one with Gorbachev. And so it becomes this kind of, you know, trying to get what you want. And the script was really good. And it was based on a they did a whole transcription of that whole weekend. And Michael was able to get to George Shultz before he passed away and even get more information about what Reagan said and did. That whole weekend is just, again, it's fascinating what those two guys tried to do. They had the courage to try to do.
George Shultz played brilliantly by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah,
in this film.
Jared Harris played Gorbachev.
Amazing.
Hope Davis was Nancy. We were loaded.
Let's take a look at a moment from the film depicting the tense meeting between Reagan and Gorbachev.
And you are trying to distract us from our purpose here. This is pointless.
I got an intelligence report the other day from our CIA. They were assessing your economic conditions, tracking a bread line in Moscow. There was a guy, Boris, and he was in front of our agent, and he got so pissed off that he left the bread line. He said he was going to go find you, Mr. General Secretary, and bludgeon you with a hammer and sickle. Well, poor old Boris, he came back about an hour later, and when our agent asked him why, he said, the only line longer than the one for bread was the one to attack you.
There is such a timelessness to this movie. It's not just a slice of history, because we see countries around the world right now racing to develop weapons like these. We see suddenly Russia as, after some years of peace, the big bad guy again. So speak about the resonance of it, but also the relationship with Jared Harris, who is Gorbachev, who's so brilliant. How did you guys approach those showdowns?
We didn't have a lot of time to shoot this. I mean, I worked on it from April, and then we shot it in October. And Jared came on the end of the summer. He got to work. So when you shoot a movie like this, we shot it in 3.5 weeks. That is not a lot of time with all that dialogue. So maybe we ran through the lines before we did it, but we didn't rehearse. And that's the thrill of film acting sometimes, is sometimes you go, roll it, and you go. And you discover that in front of the camera. And when you have actors like Jared and J.K. and Hope throwing it back at you, it's tennis, and the camera just happens to catch it. That's what happened constantly. But you have to be prepared, and these actors, we all were prepared. You came in on take one, ready to go.
It does feel in the best way like theater at times. Two guys on a stage in that room, you know, like you're doing a play.
And the story is there. The story, it may be verbal. Things may not blow up, you know, but the story is in that room, and it's fascinating. It's really what happened that weekend in Reykjavik. I hope someday could happen again. If we have the leaders around the world who want to get in the room and actually discuss that kind of thing, instead of mutually assured destruction, these two guys sat in the room and said, what can we do to get to zero? Took a lot of courage.
Turning down the temperature. I'm curious, Jeff, how your perception of Ronald Reagan changed from before you did this piece to the end, once you really got inside of him as a person, as a character? Did anything change for you?
I think at the end of the day, certainly on that weekend, that's all I had to play. I wasn't playing Reagan's life from A to Z. I was playing one weekend. So whatever his politics were, whatever his, positions on certain issues, it didn't matter. What was he doing there? And so to get in there and to hear him talk to Gorbachev about human rights, about the freedom to practice your religion no matter what it is. He was saying things like that. He was saying things like he believes in immigration. This is a nation of immigrants. I mean, he was saying things like that to Gorbachev. He was pushing democracy versus communism, but he wasn't pushing one political party's version of it. That's what was fascinating. The politics got left at the door. Now we're trying to make one world where, at the end of the day, folks, with all these nuclear weapons we've got now, we're all one people. We may look different, we may talk differently, but we're all one people, and we need to get in a room and figure out how to make this a better world for all of us. And he and Gorbachev, in the end, tried to do that.
The new film is The Brink of War. It's in theaters now. Jeff Daniels, incredible performance by you and, as I say, the entire cast. Congrats. Thanks for being here. Good to see you.
Thanks,
Always.
Thanks, Jonathan.